The In This League Podcast Network.
The Saints came marching in. Let's open the black book. Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and welcome to another stunning edition of the Fantasy Black Book. Black, 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 black. We beat the Bucks. Oh my goodness, what a weekend it was. That's right. Yeah, we'll get to your 8-0. That's Scott Bogman, that's Christopher Welsh, and that is me, Joey P. And we're going to talk all things week 9 in the NFL, recapping the week that was, looking ahead. And I'll tell you, boys, you're 8-0 still, but, we'll get to you in a second. We have to start. We got to start today. Oh, my goodness gracious. We got to start today. I feel like preaching. The New Orleans Saints got Michael Thomas back and look like a whole different team. They look so good. They look like Randy Watson. They look so good. It was unbelievable. Welsh, I'm going to start.
Who are you talking about? I didn't hear a word you were trying to talk about. I just got caught in the moment. Jesus Thomas.
I know you were healed by the moment because you felt the power. That's right. You felt the power coming from here. But
plead the fifth.
I mean, in a game that was supposed to be, again, it was supposed to be a competitive in-division game, right? All this stuff. Yeah. It was a blowout from the beginning. It was a one-sided definitive victory by the Saints, basically from the kickoff, an all-time low in terms of carries, rushes in a football game. You have Tom Brady, you have to rush the football. I all kinds of fun stats to throw at you. But look, Michael Thomas being back on the field created chaos because then everybody else was open, and wouldn't you know it, all of a sudden New Orleans looks like a team that's back in it. So Welsh, were you shocked about this outcome? Because I got to be honest, I thought even in the third quarter, I kept watching in the third quarter just to see how they responded, and there was no response for the Buccaneers for the Saints.
I mean, I'm shocked at how Tom Brady performed and how the offense performed. Like you said, they completely stopped rushing the ball. They didn't even attempt it. Tom Brady was inefficient. He was trying to make things work. There was a pick trying to get it to Antonio Brown. You've got banged up wideouts. Mike Evans hasn't worked. Chris Godwin. So, I'm shocked in how bad they looked. I don't know if I'm so shocked in how good New Orleans is. New Orleans is this every single year. I think you mentioned this in the last episode we did, where it was like the Bucs look like the best team in the NFC, but a healthy New Orleans team is the most dangerous team in the NFL, I think. Well, outside of Kansas City. In the NFC, they're the most dangerous team when healthy. And Michael Thomas, like you said, opened up. Every single person was able to get a touchdown.
Every Taysom Hill play, every Traquan Smith, who third-string tight end nonsense. Check this out. Peep this, Mr. Bogman. Ready for this? Brady, 0 for 6 with an interception on any throw over 20 yards. Here's another fun one for you. Against the Saints this year, 2 touchdowns and 5 picks. Against everybody else, 18 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So really, I mean, the Saints.
Why do I feel like you're reveling in this? I'm
not reveling in this. I'm just, it's the any given Sunday NFL, and now the massive overreaction to this. I mean, it's possible that the Saints maybe are just their kryptonite, but I've been saying it for years with you guys. We've been doing shows for years together here on the In This League Podcast Network, by the way, which you should subscribe to, by the way, and subscribe to the Black Book wherever you get your podcasts. And we're also on YouTube, so make sure you can watch us there too. But Boggs, I've been saying for years, Tom Brady can be successful, but you have to run the football. If you look at the game log where Ronald Jones has 120 rushing yards in a game, or Leonard Fournette has a good game, guess what? Tom Brady's good in those games. He needs to run play action. He doesn't throw a good deep ball at this point in his career. Here we go. Now, what's your overreaction to this game, if any? Or is this just as simple as saying New Orleans has their number? They know how to play the box.
That's what it is, because New Orleans in the first game should not have won. But the Bucs beat themselves. They allowed a kick return touchdown. Tom Brady threw a pick 6 in that game. They had more than enough mistakes to give that game up. And that's kind of what it is. I think the Saints and Sean Payton just have Bruce Arians and Tom Brady's number this year. That's what it looks like, because, Brady threw 3 picks in this game. I believe it was 3 picks in that first game. Yeah. And he has thrown it was 3 picks in this game, 2 picks in the last game, and he's thrown 2 picks outside of those 2 games.
Right. Yeah, so, I know. I'm crazy.
5 against the Saints, 2 against everybody else. I think really that is the contributing factor, because the Bucs have looked dominant against most other teams that aren't New Orleans.
All right, let's check out the Cowboys and what's eating Gilbert Grape here for a second, if we may. The Pittsburgh Steelers get by with another victory here.
Yeah, my
dicey
check
moments.
got through to those refs, so
Your
everything
check got
worked.
through to the
Yeah.
refs. Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie, there was definitely a part of me that kind of wanted the Steelers to lose.
Of course you will. Everyone who's not the 8-0 team wants the 8-0 team to lose.
Speaking of 8-0,
but
in
it's
the
the
last
Cowboys.
10 years,
It's the Cowboys.
in the last 10 years, no 8-0 team has won the Super Bowl. You do know that little fun stat, right?
Yeah,
Let's
well, the
go
Steelers
peeking
have
early.
never been 8-0 in their franchise history. So,
Oh, well, that's a bad combination of things then, I think.
Doesn't look good, Bogman. Might want to start losing
they also
some
have
games.
more Super Bowls than anyone not named the Patriots.
Was this
right.
was this a game that was
Anyone not named the Patriots.
Was this a game, Bogman, that was more how much better the Cowboys can be or how bad the Steelers can play down sometimes? Like, who was more at fault here? Was this
Good
the
question.
Steelers playing down or the Cowboys being a better team? Because the Cowboys made some different adjustments with a horrible quarterback.
They went to a
Well, how
46
many times have I
defense
said it
there,
on
the whole
this
bear
show?
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many times have I said it on this show that the Steelers love to lose to backup quarterbacks? It's their favorite thing.
It's true.
They've lost to Mike Glennon, twice with the Bucks and with the Raiders. They've lost to Terrell Pryor. Like the Steelers play down a lot of times to the competition. I think they did in this game, but also I think Gilbert had this team playing much better on offense, obviously. And they still weren't good on offense, but they were much better than they were against Philly last week with Ben DiNucci. And the defense, Neville Gallimore, I said it on ITL, this dude made a difference. He was eating up blockers. He was getting in the backfield really quickly. And it seems like his rookie development really peaked here in week 8, and he helped them out a ton. And the defense looked much, much better than they have looked all season. So I think being 14-point underdogs and playing at home and all that stuff, I think they got just sick of hearing that. And I think they rallied around that, and they almost pulled this game out. Probably should have.
It's kind of like New Orleans too. If you looked at Sunday Night Football, every single analyst across the panel, the poll, the public, everybody had the Buccaneers, right? And teams hear that. People don't realize they're listening to that stuff, man. And you're right. They saw that spread. They saw that stuff. Look, the Steelers' offense was I don't think lived up to what our fantasy expectations were, and maybe our fantasy expectations were too high. I thought it was intriguing that the Dallas Cowboys moved to that Bears front, that old 46 style where you're, plugging more of the gaps and kind of making people beat you a little bit more. And that was good. A little bit more. At least they were able to show you some kind of adjustment, because over the first 8 weeks of the season, I saw no adjustments whatsoever. So that was good. Van Der Esch being out there is always a good thing too. But going to the offensive side real quick too, two things I want to talk about. First is, at least it seems like Gilbert has made some of these folks relevant again, which is great, because I had to start CeeDee Lamb in a couple leagues this week because I had no choice, and he was pretty good. We'll see what happens with Cooper. My big question is this. Are we seeing a 4-year cumulative Ezekiel Elliott right now, where we talk about the workload of all these guys, right? And the workload of Ezekiel Elliott over the last 4 years, is that what's catching up to him here? Because I feel like, and I talked about this on Sports Grid, are we getting closer to him becoming more like Todd Gurley, where he's just touchdown dependent at this point going forward? Because everyone's going to make the argument, Dak Prescott, right? He wasn't hurt, but if you go back and look, he wasn't all that great with Dak either. Welsh, where are we with Ezekiel Elliott as a keeper and in 2021? Because I feel like we're getting into that, I don't want to say decline, but let's say decline.
Yeah, it's funny. That's what I was going to ask you, because the Elliott thing is kind of the biggest story to take away. The Cowboys later in the game kind of moved to Pollard a little bit more. They started throwing the ball to Elliott, and then when they were trying to go in critical rushing spots, they went to Pollard. That might be a formula moving forward, by the way, to consider, is that Elliott doesn't move out of this offense. He still gets his carries. I mean, he's had 18 carries at least in 3 of the last 5 games, but in the last 4, he has not had more than 64 rushing yards. He had been 51, 63, 45, and 49 over the last 4 games.
If you look at those
Todd
things,
Gurley right
he's
now.
Todd Gurley. But
the Cowboys don't trust him. Defenses don't have to respect the passing game, which they haven't been, except early on, to your point, where, even when Dak was there, I don't think the Cowboys had the trust. But now you're in a situation where they don't have to respect the passing game. Elliott's inside his own head with the fumbles, and I think a lack of confidence. And I think the team is starting to show its cards a little bit to try out some other stuff. And I'm telling you, Tony Pollard getting used a little bit early on, I think is the start where they're not going to go away from Elliott, but maybe they're going to try to press around 15 to 17, carries for Elliott and then get him in the passing game while Pollard is maybe going to be pressing 10 to 12 carries. And that changes his value. So in 2021, he's still going to be a first rounder. This actually kind of reminds me of some of the not knowing where to value Alvin Kamara last year. But I think he's going to go around 6, 7, 8 somewhere.
Let me tell you, man. I'll tell you right now. I'll put this to you guys both: Nick Chubb or Ezekiel Elliott next year,
Chubb.
even with Kareem Hunt.
Chubb.
I agree.
I'm there with you guys, but I also don't think that this is. I don't think this is him turning into Todd Gurley. I think a lot of it is the offensive line play has been rough for Dallas. It was better this game. But Terrence Steele has been one of the worst tackles in the league. Once again, played much, much better this Sunday, but he's been pretty rough. Just looking at him, Zach Martin is good. Connor Williams is just okay. This line has had a lot of turmoil as well.
This has been a team,
Dak
by the
Prescott.
way, and this has been a team that has been built off of one of the best offensive lines. So you take a running back who knows where his holes are going to be and how his line works, and then you take away a line that doesn't give him that, and you're seeing some of the discrepancies as far as production goes. But I think Joe is right in that this season, he looks very Todd Gurley-ish as far as the stat lines go. It's just 18 carries to get, 50 total yards.
And a touchdown.
Gurley would be nothing if not for those touchdowns. Right. Elliott is saving it by being a little bit more involved in the passing game, but how much longer is that going to continue?
And I think you're going to get a discount on him next year because of the rough year that he's going to have. He would have to really start looking good in the second half to put.
I got to tell you,
in
the first round, I'm taking Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, DeAndre Hopkins, all those guys over him in the first round. I do not like what I see out of Zeke. That O-line
Dak comes back and they fix that O-line, he's going to be evaluated.
If they fix that O-line, Dak comes back, I'm listening to the discount, especially in standard formats I'm listening. But I got to tell you guys, I just feel like we know this. I mean, there's a finite number of years in the NFL that you have running back play that's really good for you.
But some guys buck that, Peterson.
Some guys do, and we were thinking Zeke might be the guy to buck that. But you know what?
I still think he is.
I still think he can. I still think he can do. I think scheme wise, it's all off. The offensive line is off. Are you a buyer of Elliott in a trade deadline week, or are you a seller?
I'm definitely not selling him.
I'm a buyer in keeper leagues because I think maybe you're getting that's worth my time.
Well, let's not do that because I think that's an easy.
In redraft league right now, I'd be selling off the name if I could get something, but I don't know how much you can get. That's a problem.
I'm not selling a running back.
And here's the other thing that's going to go on: the high profile of the Cowboys. That is going to make people automatically, I think, buy back in next year. And I just want to give everybody pause and say, hey, think twice about it. I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying it's terrible. We're months and months away from redrafting 2021. But I feel like we're in a spot here right now where maybe, just maybe, we have to not buy into the Cowboys national market kind of thing where it's okay, Dak is back, Cowboys are back, they're a great offense, look how prolific they were. Because even when they were prolific, there were moments where Ezekiel Elliott was struggling. And you know what? Dak being back means they're going to throw the football a ton still. And I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing either for him.
No, but if you can throw, you can set up the run better. Elliott or Clyde Edwards-Helaire rest of season?
I'll take Helaire in the offense right now that I think is going to continue just keep moving. I'd rather take the less than spectacular him. I think the weekly floor, I'll just settle for that. How about you, Box?
I think I'd take Zeke. It's ugly between CEH and Bell, and CEH can run away with that job, and I'm not putting that out of. That might even be logical right now, but for Zeke, I'm not going to give up on him. So, and they're just going to need to use him, even if it is Garrett Gilbert that they're going to, and they're not going to play against Pittsburgh's defense every week either. So I think moving forward, he should be better.
All right, let's move on here to a fun game with the Dolphins and the Arizona Cardinals. It was the Kyler Murray show, but it was not enough because Tua and the Miami Dolphins defense just won another game. And here we are. And he started to look more like Tua in this one, running around a little bit, making some plays. A nice touchdown to Williams there in this game, who did come up lame after the celebration. But Kyler Murray, 283, 3 touchdowns. He also rushed 11 times for 106 and a touchdown. It's amazing. Last year we had Lamar Jackson, Bogman. This year we got Kyler Murray. If you had to pick next year, which quarterback in fantasy would you want to have?
I would probably go with Lamar still. I really do believe in Lamar, but Kyler Murray has been incredible, and he just every game I feel like he looks better. You know,
he does.
And his running is incredible, specifically with Drake gone. He was incredible in this game, and Miami's defense is good, holding opponents to the least amount of points per game in the NFL this year before this game. So, but the Cardinals had the number one offense, and defense won this game, surprisingly. But it was more about Tua, and the Welsh was so impressed with that Tua run. I think he skipped the hub session and got it that Tua run last night. So he really enjoyed it.
By the way, in our Dynasty League, Christian Kirk, 5 touchdowns in the last 3 games. Just want to say, Bog, Christian Kirk's really turned things around, and I know you wanted to bench him.
I hate him so much.
I know you do.
And Welsh brought this up to me yesterday, and I said, yeah, I think ever since I've said that Andy Isabella is better than Christian Kirk, that Christian Kirk has gone nuts.
He heard you. How about you, Welsh? Would you take Lamar over Tua also? I mean,
what about you?
What about you? No, over Kyler Murray. Excuse me. That's what I meant to say.
You know, it's a really good question because I'm perturbed by how indecisive Lamar Jackson has been, and he looks like he's regressed as a passer. He just doesn't have the trust, and I don't know if it's the weapons, and I can't get over that. I think Lamar Jackson is the more special and dynamic player, and given just one pure player, I'd want Lamar Jackson, but from a fantasy perspective, I don't think you can go against Kyler Murray right now because Kyler Murray is slinging the ball. He's got one of the best wide receivers in the game. You've got developing wide receivers. They've got a stable of backs they can at least go to. If Kenyon Drake isn't working, they can go to Edmonds. And Kyler Murray is doing what Lamar was doing last year, where he is trusting in throwing the ball because he has a trustworthy wide receiver and he can just fly. And I would also throw out, I know the Rams defense has played pretty good this year, but you have 2 horrific defenses in the 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks that just give up points. So I think there's a lot of points to be scored in the NFC West. So I think at this moment, if we were redrafting, I would take Kyler Murray over Lamar Jackson because I don't know what's happened as far as the passing game goes for Lamar, but it's not great. It's not exciting.
No, I'll break the tie. I'm going to go with Kyler Murray too, not because I'm living in the moment, but because of what you said. He just looks more comfortable right now. He's got an elite weapon like DeAndre Hopkins. And I think what my problem is a combination in Baltimore of, I think Lamar got found out a little bit last year towards the end of the year, and you saw that in the playoffs a little bit. It's carried over. But also Hollywood Brown, Willie Snead, these guys aren't getting it done. He doesn't have a DK Metcalf. He doesn't even have an Adam Thielen. He doesn't even have a Julian Edelman type of possession wide receiver. I think if you just gave Lamar a possession wide receiver, that would go a very long way in this offense because you can't expect a tight end to be that guy. It's just not.
You got Dez Bryant, Joe.
Oh, please, Dez Bryant. You get Lane Bryant. You get all kinds of Bryants. You can get Bryant Gumbel. Not going to matter. It doesn't matter who it is.
It doesn't matter. Sorry.
I'm gonna go with Kyler Murray too, and he's just far exceeded my expectations, man. The guy's been great. I thought he was gonna be good, but he's been absolutely great. Let's move on.
He's definitely a better passer. Like he is the better passer.
100%. Yeah.
And it's not close, but Lamar's going to get better, and he is easily.
This is not an indictment on Lamar. This is more for me a realization.
Just talking up Murray,
about Murray, and saying, look, he's the number 1 fantasy scoring quarterback,
and that's why he was my number 3 coming into the year.
And he's got 8 rushing touchdowns. You know, all right, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills. Boy, this is 2 road losses in a row for the Seattle Seahawks boys. And, you know, if Russell Wilson wants to be MVP, he's got to start winning some road games with this team. You killed it, Boggs. You were totally on, what's your boy, Gabriel, right?
Yeah,
like we talked about it.
Gabriel Davis, yeah.
Gabriel Davis, man, you totally crushed that on the DFS show we did. Josh Allen had almost 3 seconds per snap to throw the football. That is a lot of time in the NFL, and he took advantage of it. He spread the ball everywhere. John Brown looked healthy. Zach Moss got a goal line carry. 288 yards for Josh Allen the first half of this game, and 4 turnovers for Russell Wilson. He hasn't turned the ball over that many times in a game since 4 years ago. So, Boggs, we'll start with you at this one. Your big takeaway is Josh Allen, I guess the question back in that MVP conversation, or is just hey, Seattle's in town and everybody eats when Seattle defense shows up.
Well, I think it's a combo of those two. And the thing is Josh Allen was playing bad football for a month and just did not look like the same guy he looked like for the first month. So I think Seattle's the slump buster, and that's really what it is. And Josh Allen gets into that rhythm and he gets that confidence, and I think he's back. And I think that's what Seattle does. But I think the big thing is, look, Seattle, they, as good as their offense is, their defense is that bad. So that's why every game they play in is close. That's why they give up so many points. That's why they're one of the most exciting teams to watch. And that touchdown to David Moore, an NFL Next Gen Stats said that was the farthest air yard touchdown in the last 4 years.
Wow.
And it was a dime from Russell Wilson. He looks amazing.
Great, but,
yeah. But that offense really has to carry that team. So, I mean, there's just not going to be slowing down from Metcalf and Wilson and, whoever should be in at running back for the most part. This game in particular, the Bills defense is really, really good. And Russell Wilson, had 4 turnovers, but still had the 3 touchdowns. So
is Allen back for you too, Welsh? I thought
I'm good. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Welsh, I think it's a rough patch that, great teams and good quarterbacks they can get through. They're still 7-2, and Josh Allen. I was talking about this on ITL. It's weird, but we're going to end this season with Josh Allen being more worthwhile than Lamar Jackson. He's going to outscore him probably by a significant margin. And Josh Allen has been phenomenal. He does it in a little bit different way, but like Kyler Murray, where he's trusted more in the passing game. He's trusted himself in his arm because they added a weapon in Stephon Diggs. That's what Lamar needs right now, another weapon. And he's always got his legs to go back on. And it seems like, I should look, but I feel like Josh Allen has scored, 5 of the 9 games this year, at least a rushing touchdown. It's got to be 5 or 6 games he's had a rushing touchdown. Yeah, he does it.
And Stephon Diggs is all the way up at the top of the leaderboard in targets this year. Who would have thought that would be the case?
Wow, is he really?
Yep, number 1 most targeted wide receiver in the NFL. How about that?
Guess what a shocking development that having targets for young quarterbacks who can use their legs and their arm is like a really good thing. Buffalo is doing it. Now if they could just figure out the rushing game.
But isn't that a great thing for Baltimore to look at and say, well, the thing about right now, if Stephon Diggs was with Baltimore, what a difference maker that is. And I guess that's the point. That takeaway is, Josh Allen, in profile wise, running quarterback, very athletic like Lamar Jackson, but you're giving him John Brown. You're giving him Cole Beasley, a possession wide receiver. You're giving him Stephon Diggs, and look what happened. Look at the jump he made as a passer year over year, and I think it does matter. And we'll see. We'll see what this draft brings, but we're going to hit a break. We come back. We're going to ask the question, are the Falcons back? And then we're going to answer it, and then we're going to talk some other things. So you're listening to the Black Book and watching it on YouTube on the In This League Podcast Network channel. We'll be right back right after this. All right, boys and girls. So the Falcons won another game. Now, they barely hung on. But,
They're back.
They're back. The Falcons are back, and I guess here's the question here. You had your typical Todd Gurley game. You had your Julio Jones catching a touchdown. Obviously, Zacchaeus was tremendous in this game. And, you don't get to see Zacchaeus engage much because Ridley and Julio have been so good. But is Raheem Morris, Welsh, in your opinion, has he earned this job? I know he had a tough run there in Tampa, but sometimes it's the second time around for guys who get head coaching jobs in the NFL. Does it feel like maybe this guy might be earning this job going into next year?
Yeah, I think so. I think, one of the big keys is, do you have the respect from the team for them to play up and play better when they're on their backs? Because they were. I think, what was it, Joe? Last week, you and I were, kind of team Atlanta on the second half, and Bogman wasn't having it. But look at this team. Matt Ryan's playing for him. They're making the right calls. They have such amazing depth at the receiving position, and the defense isn't playing as bad as it was before. So I absolutely think that's the case. And, the way to win in the NFL is have depth across the board. And that's just what this team has right now outside of the wonky defense. But I'm super enthralled with the wide receiver position and what they've been able to do. Olamide is, I don't know. He's just kind of a stud to me. I wish he would get more run, but it's kind of the same thing I feel like I want to say about Russell Gage. Russell Gage is another one of those
guys.
They
should trade one of these guys or trade Julio or do something. They got to figure out something because they've got an embarrassment of riches. And there's a lot of teams that could use some wide receiver help. Denver is an enigma to me, Boggs. Like, I don't understand, what are they doing every week? Every week they come out, they are boring, they're flat, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden they start realizing we should throw the ball and try to score. And I can't think of there's a lot of situations you can come in as a head coach and I think turn a football team around right away. I think Detroit's one of them. I think Denver's the other one. Because you got a young quarterback, you got a tight end on the up and up here with Fant. You got Jerry Jeudy, who in the last 2 weeks is like 20 targets and looks like Jerry Jeudy we've been waiting for. But what the hell's wrong with them? Like, why do they come in with such a bad game plan every week? And then these adjustments back, and then they get back in these games.
I don't think Fangio's a very good head coach. I think he's a good DC, but I don't think he's a very good head coach, first off. Second off is I think they want to have the type of game and game plan that the Vikings have. Throw the ball as few times as you can because you don't want Kirk Cousins or Drew Lock deciding your whole game. So I think that's why they signed Melvin Gordon and they still have.
Yeah, but those guys aren't Dalvin Cook. You don't have Dalvin Cook. You can't run that game plan, baby.
That's exactly the point is they aren't performing like Dalvin Cook is. So you really can't. And then you put the ball in Drew Lock's hands. And sometimes that's going to be good, but that's really flipping a coin. Sometimes it's not going to be good. It was good this game. Drew Lock was pretty solid. They just didn't give themselves enough time to make the full comeback here when they got down. So I don't know. The offense running is weird. Both these running backs are having a hard time staying healthy, and specifically Lindsey. But I mean, it's not wholly and completely flushed out yet, this Broncos team. So it's going to be another year or two before they realize what they're going to do with Locke. Do they need to ditch him? Do they need
I don't think they need to ditch him. I think they need to take the cuffs off and let the kid play 4 quarters of throwing the football.
At least let him do that so that they can figure out faster.
Here's the bigger fantasy question though. Do you need to let go of either of these running backs? You need to let go of your hope on Lindsey and Gordon being anything this year because Jeudy and Hamler are taking more of a role. They cannot establish the running game. I'm not saying necessarily you need to go and cut, but do you need to not be playing either one of these guys moving forward?
Your faith in them is over unless you get a really good matchup, or unless you have a defense you're playing against that's just gross against the run. Yeah, I don't think you feel good about playing either of these guys going forward.
Yeah, they're too evenly split to feel comfortable playing either one of them. And Lindsey's looked better, but he hasn't been healthy, so Gordon is the better play, I think, most weeks. But it sucks. It's not great.
We will spend very little time on this next game. The Titans and the Bears. Oh God, what a gross game this was. It's terrible. And look, if Mitchell Trubisky was healthy, I think he would have gotten a look in this game for sure. But I don't want to hang everything on Nick Foles because the offensive line in this game was absolutely dreadful. Welsh, dude, they had Nick Foles had no time. Every time they hiked the ball, there were 5 Titans, and the Titans have not been great defensively. They were all over Nick Foles this entire game. Yet still, Allen Robinson somehow finds a way. AJ Brown was good in this one. Henry was, ho-hum. But
I think the redeeming factor of the Chicago Bears that you really need to take a look at is Darnell Mooney. Darnell Mooney is the most targeted wide receiver 11
I started
targets.
Him in DFS this week in a couple lines.
11 targets in this game. He has had 24 targets over the last 3 games. I mean, that is pretty dang solid. I mean, the numbers aren't, popping through the roof, but he's had 2 straight games with 5 receptions. He's out-targeted Anthony Miller. He seems to be kind of that second option. And I don't know if we've seen it this morning. This is airing a little bit after, so people might see it. But, the David Montgomery issue, they might have a worse running game issue than expected before. So that's going to mean more throwing the ball. And that, to me, leads to Darnell Mooney possibly throwing him in as a must start moving forward. Because if you have less of a running game, go Mooney.
I don't disagree with that at all. Boggs, going forward, I mean, I know Trubisky's banged up, but I feel like you got to get him healthy and see if you can get him to move around the pocket a little bit because Foles is a statue and he's just going to continue to get rocked back there. And the Bears are this is 4 in a row now, right? 4 in a row that they've lost. I mean, you were right. You guys nailed this when you said it. And I think, Boggs, you said this. They had been so much better off if they had started the year with Foles than started with Trubisky. And now they put themselves in a pickle and Trubisky's hurt right now. So I don't know what's going to go on, but the Bears, I mean, Allen Robinson's that one guy, and like you said, Mooney, and that's a guy that I've been playing out there, like I said, in DFS. But man, it's tough right now.
This is a reverse Seahawks. The Bears. That's exactly what they are. Is as good as their defense is, their offense is that bad. And you're right. It starts with the line. Like, you can go back and forth on quarterbacks making bad decisions and stuff. If you have Foles and Trubisky, you don't really have a quarterback there. So we knew that was going to be rough, but the offensive line being so bad, and Aikman started talking about it last week on the broadcast. They were talking about how he said, I love David Montgomery, but this dude can't get the handoff before he has to shake a tackle immediately.
Yeah. Like that's another guy I'd love to see on a different team or a different offensive line or something. This is another guy, like, I don't think we've ever got a chance to evaluate him. And this is what happens in the NFL to good talent. You could like a talent and be right on the talent, but the situation kills the value.
Yeah.
I mean, just look at Sam Darnold is the perfect example.
Yeah.
I mean, there's another guy too, where, you see a guy, he's got some talent, but if you end up in the wrong spot in the NFL, your career could be over before it starts. And it's terrible.
Right.
And sometimes guys get a second shot, but not always, and not always running backs either. And I'll tell you what, I would love to see like the Seahawks take a flyer on Montgomery or somebody like that.
That would be
like,
great. Yeah.
That's exactly the kind of team I'd like to see take a flyer on him.
Yeah, because I mean the Bears need like a Derrick Henry type. They need a grinder if this is the offense they're going to play. And Montgomery's really good, but he's not that type of a grinder. He's more shifty. So, the offense looks bad, and Trubisky's going to miss this week again too. So they're not going to be able to go back to him here. So it's going to be the Nick Foles show. But the good news is they're playing Minnesota this week, whose defense has not been great. So Nick Foles should get an extra Mississippi and be able to throw
double-digit targets for Mooney.
Well, since you brought him up, Boggs, Minnesota Vikings won again. And I think they're getting ever closer to that last playoff spot, feeling a little bit like it. I mean, Dalvin Cook.
Was our team. I was thinking it was Atlanta. You're right.
No,
it was
the Minnesota
conversation.
Minnesota was that was the well, I think we were positive on. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, I think we were positive on Minnesota, but I think we were not negative on Atlanta either. But Dalvin Cook, 200 yards, 2 touchdowns in this one. Obviously Detroit, has their issues. We all know that. Most of them are, around Matt Patricia knowing how many defensive players to play on the field at one time. There's, more than 10, just so you know. It's hard enough to stop Dalvin Cook if he had 13. But anyway, Welsh, another good game here for Dalvin Cook. It seems like this is the special sauce. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. First one, are the Vikings getting closer to that playoff spot in your opinion? And number 2, is Dalvin Cook the number 1 overall pick next year?
Both great questions, Joe. Thank you for the setup. I really appreciate that. Hey, Bogman, the Minnesota Vikings getting closer to the playoff spot.
Just 2 games behind the Bears.
Well, the Bears ain't looking too great. I think it's going to be one. I think movement's going to happen next week
against the Bears this year. 2 more games left against the Bears.
They play on Monday Night Football next week.
I know.
On number two, Bogman and I talked about this on ITL a little bit. I think Dalvin Cook at this moment is the de facto number 1. I think it's a race between Cook, McCaffrey, and Kamara. And I think if you look at the trajectory and if you want to talk about, just recency, you can't go against Dalvin Cook because Minnesota's found a recipe that's working. Dalvin Cook looks fantastic. You get reminded of how Kamara can disappear. And if, he's PPR, the PPR saves Kamara on most weeks, but you also see how touchdown dependent he can be. Christian McCaffrey makes a huge case coming back off of that and just looked phenomenal right back at it. And his usage is up there. I think McCaffrey is going to be number 1 going into next year again, and Cook will be 2. But Cook is making it tough. And then you throw in, you've got Derrick Henry, who's been an absolute monster all year. There's 4. You've got Saquon Barkley on a return. If Elliott can get anything through, the top 6 or 7 at the running back position next year could be wild. It could be absolutely wild.
It's going to be the Wild West. Everyone's going to have weird opinions about it all, I'm sure. Boggs, for you right now, I would imagine my favorite start to a team, if I was the number 1 overall pick in a regular snake draft, would probably be something like, give me Dalvin Cook number 1. And then when it comes back to me, let me take Kyler Murray and Keenan Allen. And I'm just like, I'm just going to be fine every week. Like that's what I would like to do. Like, to me, that is a great start, right? Like, I feel like next year we're going to see a real bias towards people starting to pay off for quarterback because they realize it's just the most protected position. And on a weekly basis, if you can lock in high productivity at quarterback, you can at least be competitive regardless of what's going on. Dak injury aside, it's still very protected. But do you think, and we could branch this off into CMC conversation too in the next segment, but do you think right now, if you had a first overall pick, would you be taking Dalvin Cook on the recency bias?
It would be close. I would have a hard time not taking CMC, but if I wasn't going to take him, it would be Cook probably. Cook and Kamara are right there as well.
See, Kamara doesn't run enough for me. That's and I know
I'm playing so many PPR leagues though.
I know, and I guess that's the difference. Like in the PPR, we just got
how many non-PPR leagues do you play in?
Most of the ones I'm in are half. You know, because a lot of the expert leagues or whatever, Jake Steele, nobody's happy in those leagues. Everybody's got a half-point PPR because, and you know what? I don't mind it. I actually think it is probably the better way to do it. To be honest, like the full point PPR, it is kind of crazy. It's like, why do you get a full point just for catching a football? But the half point, I think, gives it a little bit more. Gives some value to the Cole Beasleys of the world and those kind of guys that do have value in real football. So I like.
Well, a great fantasy football philosopher that I talk to on a regular basis, Joe Pisapia, once told me, "I don't care where I get the yards as long as I'm getting the yards." So it doesn't really matter. I mean, look, if Breeze retires and Jameis Winston's in there, all of a sudden a little bit different offense, I think that would make me want to go maybe towards Dalvin Cook, but Dalvin Cook already has a crappy quarterback in Kirk Cousins. Cook is really, really good. So, and he's had injury history coming into the NFL, which is funny now that, between him and CMC and Saquon, recency bias would say he's the most healthy. So,
yeah. All right, let's hit a break. We come back. I want to talk about CMC. I want to talk about this Chiefs and Carolina game. I mean, a lot to figure out here, and if whether or not Carolina has their quarterback of the future. So stick around. More Black Book right after this.
Black
Book.
All
right, welcome back, everybody. So we were just talking a little bit on the Black Book about the Dalvin Cook #1 overall prospects, but let's talk about Christian McCaffrey a second, if we will. He had his return in this game, and clearly it was a good return. There's no doubt about that. I mean, it was definitely what you wanted it to be. Besides the end, and the end is a shoulder injury. And look, you can't, we'll see as the week goes on what comes of this, if anything. But here's the question.
Mike Davis is back.
Oh, he was dropped in 25% of ESPN leagues. Over
the title of our ITL episode, we'll go through the descriptors, and one of the 4 or 5 focal points of the episode was Mike Davis. See ya. And someone responded, because we do a couple, and one of them was that one, and someone said, Mike Davis, he's back. And it's like Mike Davis is absolutely back, because this is bad. This is bad for McCaffrey.
It's bad news.
25% of leagues he was dropped.
25% of leagues he was dropped this
week.
He
had 7 touches or whatever, so I get it. When McCaffrey goes back to 28 touches.
And the people that are known that he would go right back. Like that was such a no-brainer.
But it's so dumb, and it's obviously
why would you
dumb.
drop him? That's the
that's what I mean. Right. Who are the people that are just like, no, F this guy and just drop him? No, you wait to drop him for someone relevant. I don't understand the logic of just being like, nah, I hate this guy, I'm done.
Well, bye weeks, it's a mash unit out there. Everybody's
people
were
dropping him before McCaffrey came back.
Yeah.
There's no way I would have done that. I wanted to see how the mix worked. It didn't work out. I wouldn't have rage cut him on Sunday night. Those people are idiots.
I made on the TV shows today, I made a little bit of an analogy. I want to see if you guys feel this is accurate.
All right.
There was a couple years in Major League Baseball where we had a dominant starting pitcher. Guy was just unbelievable, but he was very diminutive. He was small. His name was Tim Lincecum. And everybody kept saying, look, it's not going to last because of the size, because of what he's doing. It can't last. And everybody said, no, it can last. It can last. And it lasted for a little while. And then it went away. Are we in a dangerous zone here if he has another serious injury here of the workload and the size, and despite how good a shape he's in, despite how great he's been, are we starting to walk a little bit closer to that Tim Lincecum analogy with Christian McCaffrey? I'm not saying we are, but I think it's a provocative question to ask ourselves here. Bogman, you're Mr. CMC. I'm going to give you some time to think about it because Welsh seems to think like he's got.
Well,
he's ready.
I think it's provocative in what you're saying, but I think I don't know. I feel like McCaffrey's being picked on when if you want to talk about like from a size situation, Alvin Kamara is smaller than him, and I think shares similar.
He doesn't carry the ball as much as McCaffrey has. See,
so I mean,
but no one does.
Yeah, I mean,
ding, ding, ding. No one does, and should anyone?
You think it's volume based on his size that's taking him?
I'm saying if you take size plus
it's
volume,
really based on his position. It has nothing to do with his.
Well,
size.
but all of the above, above.
I mean, usage. Who gets used like McCaffrey? I mean,
but you can't look at a running back like Derrick Henry and the abuse that he puts onto the other guy the same way to the abuse that Christian McCaffrey's body's taken from guys who are twice his size. You just can't.
True, but also there's more Christian McCaffreys than there are Derrick Henrys. Derrick Henry is a freak. Yeah, I mean, look at Mark Ingram versus him. Mark Ingram looks like a lollipop gill next to Derrick Henry.
Everybody does.
Yeah, Derrick Henry's enormous. So I think Derrick Henry's the bigger exception than McCaffrey is the exception because he's small. And I think it's I think you have a great point, and people that bring it up also have a great point. Christian McCaffrey gets too many carries, and I think this proves it. Like I thought that, Ron Rivera we saw last year, and he just kept giving the carries, and all that stuff.
Desperation. There was desperation.
Yes, exactly. So you would think Matt Rule would see that and go, let's taper him back a little bit. But Matt Rule did the same exact thing because you want to have your best player out there as much as possible. But it's also, it's not going to lead towards a long, fruitful career if he's touching the ball 30 times a game. That's too many touches for anybody.
I'd also say that it's something you have to look at when you're examining, and I think it's a great question. We were all in on running back this year, no doubt about it. Give me all the running backs. Wide receivers hold up a little bit better. They don't quite work out on the top end, but as you start to stack the years and you start to see how I think it's progressively getting bigger and bigger of how running backs cannot hold up. I think the exception to the rule is not about size. It's about an actual running back that can stay healthy and maintain for a long time. It's not.
And they've all time. But
they all get hurt
every single year. We have Alvin Kamara who missed time last year, and he's been hurt before in his career.
But this is why the teams are also going to a system where they have multiple guys to go to, and we're seeing less trust in one player, and it's becoming more of the rule. The exception is the place where Derrick Henry gets that. So it's not only the players where the guy has volume and doesn't get hurt is the exception. It's also the teams that are doing it, and I think the amount of injuries. And I think some of the lack of success, even from the big guys, Saquon Barkley, 2 big major injuries, Christian McCaffrey, another injury that could be major, Ezekiel Elliott, lack of production. Teams are more and more showing their card that I don't think they can trust or count on one major guy, which hurts the position in general.
I'll take it a step further philosophically. The Browns have 2 great guys, and they couldn't keep them both healthy.
But this is why I like guys like Kamara and McCaffrey. I like guys that are full versatility where they can disappear in the run game and then they can show up and be a major force in the pass game. That's why I think both of those guys are immensely valuable. And that's probably why McCaffrey's number 1 and Kamara would be number 3 for me.
And that's why Henry will still be probably the 4th pick after 3 of those guys.
And that's fine. And I understand that, and that's fair. But you know what? At a certain point, it's like all the ceiling that those other guys offer. Or you just give me Derrick Henry, who's there, who's going to have a couple ceiling games, maybe not as many, or maybe not a weekly ceiling as high as some of the other players, but I think he's going to be there every week. And you know what? At this point, we have to start wondering where we value that. It's a real question to ask ourselves as a fantasy community. We should know this going forward next year. I'm going to ask another question too, because this was a fun game here between the Chiefs and the Carolina Panthers, who, I give Carolina a ton of credit. Joe Brady has done, I said it last time when they were playing Thursday Night Football. I think Joe Brady's doing a great job of play calling. I love the plays that they got. I love how they're getting Samuel now involved in the offense the last few weeks. They're really doing some great stuff. Joe Brady, somebody should hire that guy. If I'm Joe Brady, if I'm Denver, go get that guy. With all those weapons, there you go. There's your match.
Well, you can also see it how bad it is at LSU right now, too.
Wow, that's a good combination. You're not wrong, baby. You're not wrong. Have the Carolina Panthers found their quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater, boys? Or is this another thing where they could go and take the kid from BYU or take, if they're in that middle of the first round here this year.
That's the guy. He's better than Cam Newton. I mean, they made the right decision. Didn't look like it. Did not look like the right decision. But you know what? They made the right decision. It is clearly Bridgewater. Now, Bridgewater has made DJ more irrelevant, but he's brought back a big play. I mean, you're also seeing the scheme of what Teddy Bridgewater needs to succeed, and it might just not be a player of DJ Moore's ilk. It might be just, guys who can spread the field, and Bridgewater can use his legs if needed, but he's also got the arm to make some of it happen, and getting Christian McCaffrey helps. I think this is the guy, and I think they know this is the guy.
Boggs, do you think he's the guy?
I think he's the guy for the next couple of years at least for them. Yeah. So I don't think they're going to go and pick a guy, a quarterback very, very high, unless there's one that they absolutely fall in love with. And I don't think so. I think they'll probably take Brewer from Baylor late in the process next year, and he'll back up Teddy Bridgewater for a while. So
all right. Let's move on here. Look, Indianapolis Colts, again, it's just such a weird team defensively. Look great times in this game, especially with Darius Leonard back healthy in this game. Oh, my God, last 2 weeks. What a difference he makes to a defense that was already playing well. Lamar and the offense, that was so bad. They only had 55 total yards in the first half of this game. And you could see the frustration on Lamar's face in this game, too. Like, he was in there in 3rd and 20s. He was in there in 3rd and 35 situations. It was just brutal. And you could see all of that frustration. And, we already talked about it. It's time to give him some more. I don't want to take too much out of this game because it was Indianapolis, but you're the Dobbins owner right now, guys. Who do you think that you just kind of chalk this up to? Okay, last week it was good. This week, obviously, Indianapolis, good defense on the road, and you hope for better next week, or are you right back to square one where you just have no idea?
I mean, Bogman, we both agree on this front that if you're the Dobbins owner, you're the Gus Edwards owner, you're getting 13 carries. That's your max. You're getting 13 carries on a game. Dobbins has the best opportunity to make the most of it from a game-breaking situation, and maybe Gus Edwards takes a little bit of a seat back if Mark Ingram comes back, but Mark Ingram's going to make it worse. He's just going to make it worse. Ingram will get 7 carries. Gus will probably get 9, and JK maybe gets 10 or 11, and then Lamar is going to get his 10. So, it also proves, I think, if you believe in the Ravens running backs all getting that type of a run, I think it worsens the situation for guys like Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews, and it makes the team wonky. But I think you chalk this up and you go, this is what I'm in for. Bogman, I think you agree with me on that front.
Yeah, I do. And this is without Mark Ingram playing this week. And who knows, he might be back as early as next week. It's a nice matchup against the Patriots, who are 28th in the league at stopping the run right now, giving up 140 yards a game. So it's a great matchup. And maybe Mark Ingram isn't back, but I don't know that it matters so much. I mean, Dobbins just right now is at best a flex option. You don't want him as your RB2. You want him as a flex, and that's if you have to play him. You probably don't want to.
Bad scene, man. All right. Kyle Allen's not going to be playing for a while. Kyle's going to. My ankle's broken. Kyle? Somebody help my ankle. It's broken. So Alex Smith is back in here. You know what? I gave the Giants credit, man. The Giants, they're not very good, but man, do they play hard. Like they have no quit for a team with
not very talent. Good, but they play.
They do. They show up every week. No one's covered more spreads than the Giants this year. Okay. It's crazy. They're unbelievable. And, Terry McLaurin is unflappable. No matter what happens, Terry McLaurin's always going to be good. Him and Allen Robinson for Christmas. I hope both of them get a quarterback next year. That's what I would love to see. Not too much else to talk about fantasy-wise in that game. Moving on to the next one here, we got Jake Luton and Boggs. I'm going to ask you, is this the best we're going to get out of him? Because, first week out there, we get, nobody really sees and everyone sees. And it was also the Houston Texans. And look, they didn't win this game, but everyone's looking around going, well, he threw for 300 yards. Oh, my goodness. Look at that. Look, he's running around making spin moves.
4 of that was on the first play or whatever that he threw. Second or first drive, at least. That big, long.
And, of course, DJ Shark was on my bench.
It's the same.
No faith. Yeah, none.
Him and Gardner Minshew are the same guy. They played in Pac-12 offenses that play against crappy defenses that can throw the ball if they're given time, but the offensive line is bad, and they're probably not going to get that much time. So against a team like Houston, who has, what would you call JJ Watt? 75% of what he normally is. And that's
called 100% of JJ Watt, by the way. JJ Watt is 75% of who he is all the time.
But he just had his 100th sack, by the way.
Yeah.
Congratulations to you, JJ Watt.
I was actually kind of
Congrats.
surprised. I felt like that was low for how great he's been in his career,
Well,
but he's also he's missed so much time.
He's probably only played 100 games. In his
Right.
career.
Exactly.
That's what I'm getting at. Like, you get 75% of Watt. You're like, oh, cool. This is what I get.
Cool. You're top 10 in the all-time sack list.
Right. They don't have many other pass rushers. And players on the Texans defense have been dropping like flies. So their defense is bad. I mean, we saw James Robinson just have an okay game against them. He had
25 carries though. I love that.
25 carries and almost 100 all-purpose yards, but didn't get in the end zone. But I don't know. Jake Luton and Gardner Minshew are the same guys. So if you're whatever you were expecting from Gardner Minshew, expect that same nonsense from Jake Luton.
That's fair.
Maybe a little less rushing.
Welsh, going into this year, we talked about the risk-reward factor of Will Fuller. I think I was less risk-adverse to Will Fuller than a lot of other people. And I got to say, that risk has paid off this year. 5 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, he's been on the field, and he's been good all year. I mean, at a certain point now, we're halfway through the season. I think we can all stand up and go, yeah, this was one of the risks coming into the season that's really paid off.
And this is one of the reasons why the Texans couldn't trade him. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't afford, by the way, I think people forget this. They couldn't afford to go get whatever, you know, Green Bay was probably offering like a 4th round pick or something like that. And they couldn't afford to move Will Fuller when he's played so well for less than what they traded away for Brandon Cooks. And I think that's part of the mixture, but Fuller just needs to stay on the field, and he's done that, and he's played really well, and you got to give it up. And he's been a must start when he's out there.
You know who else has played really well? Nelson Aguilar. Oh my God. Nelson Aguilar has, oh my God. The dude's got 4 touchdowns in his last 5 games. And the one where he didn't was in Cleveland, where nobody threw the ball all game because of the 50-mile-an-hour winds. I can't believe Nelson Aguilar is a thing in 2020. So you check that off. And Vegas got a win here against the Chargers, who just, the Chargers know how to score. The Chargers do not know how to win football games. I don't know when they're going to learn, or if they're ever going to learn this year. We'll see what happens. And it's weird because I like Anthony Lynn. He seems like a really strong leadership coach. They just can't win football games here. Kalen Balaj started in this game. That's where we are.
Don't go down that road.
Don't start. Goddamn Kalen Balaj. Give me a great. Like the Justin Jackson out of nowhere. No, let's not go to Josh Kelly. Let's go to Kalen Balaj. The Chargers, or however you want to look at it. Kalen Balaj, I mean, he looked like a viable running back, and that was not possible.
I think it's more of a damnation on Joshua Kelly and what the coaching staff thinks of him than it was.
Hey, he fumbled the ball way too much early.
Right. Yeah.
Can't do that in the NFL.
It is, like we really, really love Kalen Balaj and need to go to him if all of these guys aren't playing. I think it's more of we don't like Joshua Kelly, the Chargers.
I don't like Kalen Balaj.
All right, I've got a Raider question, but I'm going to save it for the 2-minute drill, and it starts right now. All right, so here we are, 2-minute drill time. Last year at this time, the Raiders were 5-4, and we were talking about them as being a potential playoff team, and then they went and lost to the Jets. So I'm going to ask you this question. Here we are. This year, they are 5-3 football team. Are the Raiders a playoff team with this extra expanded playoff format? Welsh, do you think they can get in here? Because, look, we know who the big 4 teams are. You probably got Tennessee in there as well. You probably, I guess, on the peripheral, Cleveland's had a good record. You could kind of throw them in the mix. But I don't know. I think you can make the case for them that they could very well sneak in this year, considering how bad Denver and the Chargers have been.
You can make the case. I'm not going to do it. I think Miami is a better team than they are right now. Miami's defense is better, and their offense looks as revived as it needs to be.
And they play week 16, so that might be a deciding factor that game.
I don't trust the Raiders. Their offense is too inconsistent. They just don't have the weapons. I don't think they're. I'm going to say no.
All right, Boggs, how about you? You trust the Raiders and John Gruden, or
they're too young? No, they're still a little bit young, specifically on defense. I think they're going to hit some road bumps here. They play Denver twice. I would think they probably go 1-1 in those games. They have the Chargers one more time. They can win that game, but they've got the Chiefs, a better Falcons team, the Colts, and the Dolphins on the schedule. They also have.
I don't know if they win another game this year.
Well, they play the Jets, so they'll win that one. Yeah, they'll win at least one.
If you beat
that's
Miami,
the only guaranteed one.
I think if you beat Miami, you control your own destiny there. I think it's going to come down to that because I think both these teams are going to be right around that 8-8, and whoever.
Well, if the only game you've won leading into that Week 16 matchup is the Jets, then no. But they've got to beat. They've got to beat Denver.
Split. No, I'm saying they split with Denver, like you said. You beat the Jets, that's 7, and then you beat Miami, that's 8. I think 8 wins with the tiebreaker get you in this year.
If they could beat the Falcons, but that's on the road, that would probably get them there. But I would not have them as winning that.
I think they're a 7-win team at best.
Maybe. But there you go. All right. In the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter at @IsItTheWelsh, at Bogman Sports, at Joe Pisapia 17. Go join the ITL Army over on Patreon and get into In This League. And again, subscribe to the YouTube page of In This League too, so you can watch the podcast. It's fun. You throw it up on your device. You sling it on your TV with all the interactive, cool streaming stuff going on there. All the kids love to do.
Rather they talk, they're like, "Ooh, look, I can see Joe
so
P.
Cool. Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P. I'm really cool. I'm doing all my millennial stuff here. See, and if you're watching us on YouTube,
is that what they say? They go, "Oh, look at me, I'm a millennial,
and everything's really cool, man. Look at me, man. I got what's up? I got different angles because I'm looking around."
This is gonna make me barf.
Faces. Yeah, all right. That's gonna be. Let me put this back.
I was enjoying it.
I thought it was pretty funny.
Bogman, your turn. You do it.
I was just about to vomit everywhere because
Bogman, your turn. You do your millennial.
Hey, I'm a millennial. I love being a millennial. I say millennial things. Oh, it's the best. My place is totally messy. I own a cat. It's the best ever.
Oh, well, sure. You're going to get this is why you have to be watching on YouTube.
Okay, now I got to do hey, everybody, look at me. I'm close. Watch this. The kids.
Oh,
my God.
Yeah, that was amazing. Wow. That was like straight out of like the Ramones or something.
You think Logan Paul will like me?
Oh, that'll do it for us. But the story of the game goes on. For Bogman and Welsh, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids. Subscribe to my Twitch channel. Peace.
I feel like going to break.